There is a nondescript, concrete facility, tucked away on the outskirts of an industrial zone in eastern China. That does not appear on any global technology registry. From orbit, commercial surveillance satellites see nothing unusual. Just flat roofs, security fences, and high-voltage transmission lines. Yet, late at night, infrared thermal imagery reveals something that defies the laws of modern economics. The compound glows with intense, continuous heat, draining enough electrical power to light an entire metropolitan district. For 3 long years, Western intelligence agencies were completely convinced this machine could not exist. The supply chains were severed. The most advanced processors on Earth were banned, and an iron wall of trade sanctions was built to freeze the nation's computing power in the past. Then, an academic paper on atmospheric physics quietly appeared online. Buried inside its mathematical appendices was a single telemetry metric, a benchmark calculation so impossibly fast that it sent shockwaves through defense rooms across the Pacific. The machine is not a theoretical prototype. It is fully built, it is online, and it is processing calculations faster than almost anything the West has ever deployed. If this hidden engine continues to run unmonitored, the global balance of power will quietly tilt in a direction nobody is prepared for. To understand how this phantom machine was born in total secrecy, we first have to return to a sterile government office in Washington, where a single executive order was supposed to seal the tech race forever. In late 2022, international trade regulators believed they had engineered the ultimate technological checkmate. They enacted the strictest technology embargoes in modern memory, cutting off access not just to finished microchips, but to the multi-million-dollar lithography tools required to manufacture them. The geopolitical calculation was simple. Without Western design software, without Taiwanese fabrication, and without European optical lasers, building a next-generation computing beast was an engineering impossibility. For months, the strategy appeared to work with surgical perfection. The international supercomputing leaderboards fell completely silent. The Asian superpower stopped submitting performance benchmarks, their tech giants went quiet, and global analysts declared the embargo a total success. But that absolute silence was not a sign of defeat, it was an intentional blackout. Deep inside state-backed laboratories, hundreds of computer architects had already made a radical, dangerous bet. Instead of trying to sneak around the embargo or duplicate Western hardware, they decided to throw out the entire playbook of modern computing. To build a machine under total blockade, they had to solve a problem that had baffled global engineers for decades. How do you beat the fastest silicon on the planet? Using older, less advanced parts. The secret lay in an architecture the West had abandoned years ago as too difficult and too expensive to program. Modern computing typically relies on massive, ultra-complex processors that do heavy individual calculations. But when you are locked out of high-end fabrication factories, you cannot build those monster chips. So the engineering team made an unexpected pivot. They took hundreds of thousands of smaller, simpler, mature-node domestic cores and linked them together inside a custom-designed silicon mesh. On paper, this design sounded like suicide. Connecting that many simple chips creates a catastrophic communication bottleneck, where data gets trapped in transit and the entire system chokes on its own heat. Foreign tech analysts openly mocked the design, calling it an inefficient brute force experiment that would melt before it ever completed a real calculation. If you are finding this hidden breakdown valuable, take a quick moment to subscribe. Because what these engineers did next completely caught international intelligence off guard. To stop the massive system from overheating, they designed an entirely proprietary, closed-loop liquid submersion cooling network. They submerged towering server racks directly into non-conductive synthetic coolant, allowing the processors to run at blistering, overclocked clock speeds without burning out the motherboard traces. And instead of relying on foreign software to manage the workload, a secretive team of domestic cryptographers spent years writing an entirely new, ground-up operating layer. They hand-optimized every single line of code to strip away useless background tasks, When the system was finally booted up in the dark, it did not stumble. It did not melt. It shattered the mythical exascale barrier, executing billions of calculations every single second. The machine wasn't just operational. By relying entirely on domestic supply chains, it became the first supercomputer on Earth that was completely immune to foreign trade sanctions. This is where the real story begins to turn dark. A supercomputer of this scale is not built to render visual effects or run ordinary civilian algorithms. It is a strategic weapon of pure national leverage. Western military analysts soon realized why the machine's existence was hidden from global benchmark registries. When a nation submits its system to international rankings, it must reveal its architectural blueprints, its memory bandwidth, and its computational bottlenecks. By operating in total darkness, this system became a ghost engine, allowing calculations to take place far beyond the reach of international inspectors. And the calculations it is running right now are reshaping the modern battlefield. At this level of processing speed, engineers no longer need to conduct physical tests in the real world. Complex hypersonic flight dynamics, which normally require months of physical wind tunnel testing, can be simulated in high-definition digital airflows in a matter of seconds. Nuclear stockpile reliability, advanced electromagnetic radar patterns, and massive offensive cyber simulations can all be solved simultaneously inside this single concrete room. What once took an entire research institute a full decade to calculate can now be solved overnight. Remember that executive order signed in Washington? The very policy intended to secure a permanent technological monopoly ended up forcing an adversary to build a completely independent, parallel tech universe. Today, the world is quietly fracturing into two entirely separate technological realities. On one side stands the Western ecosystem, powered by cutting-edge commercial chips, global trade routes, and open scientific collaboration. On the other side stands a self-contained, heavily fortified computational fortress, running on homegrown architectures, custom code, and sovereign silicon that no foreign power can switch off. The terrifying question is no longer whether trade restrictions can stop the